All right, let's talk about pressure cookers. You guys know that I use the Instant Pot. That's my preferred pressure cooker. Okay, this is to explain the difference between an Instant Pot and a normal pressure cooker, or one of the differences. Pressure cookers, this thing is dancing around all the time, as you can see here. Okay, so an Instant Pot, when it's coming up to pressure, is venting through this valve, and when it comes up to pressure, it pushes it up. It's got a stopper down there, silicone gasket, and it seals everything in. It's not venting all the time, which is something that I really like, because this has been going for 8 minutes. I set up for 30 minutes, and you're not gonna be losing water all the time. The water stays in there, everything stays contained, and this is why I can get away with doing grain jars with only aluminum foil covering it, because there is no exchange of air going on in here. Everything is contained until it's done. One more thing I want to say is that people are like, oh, that only goes up to 11 psi. That's not going to do anything. It goes to up to 12.5, they say, which is a little bit below 15. But when I bought this one, like a week after, they came up with the I forget what it's called, but it's right here on the video. It goes up to 15 psi. Now, as you guys know, I haven't needed it, but if I was gonna buy one, I would go with a 15 psi, and boom, set it and forget it. It's real easy to do. It's not venting all the time. I'm telling you, I love this thing. Again, I'm a hobbyist. I don't have a commercial operation, so this works great. This is a 6 quart. I would probably also buy an 8 quart instead of a 6 quart. They're bigger. If I was gonna do it all over again, but these things work so well, and I have 2 of them because a friend of mine just left me one here because he's not using it. So, but 8 quarts, 15 psi, Instant Pot, that would be great for home use. All right. Now, when you're doing grain spawn, most people use either sticker filters or syringe filters. Everybody uses just one. I like to use at least 2 because I think I get more FAE when it's colonizing, and I have found that the more air I can let in, the faster it colonizes. Your mileage may vary, and people hate it when I put more than one of these. Oh my God, I've gotten some comments. Why? It's overkill. Why do it? Are you paying for them? No, right? So let me do my thing. I do me, you do you. But anyway, I've also talked about how the ball jars, and especially the lids, are much better than these knockoffs. The knockoffs have this stupid sealing ring here, O-ring, that is another piece of equipment that can go wrong. They don't seal as well as these, even though these are just plastic and they seal with this. We've talked about that. But anyway, here's the other thing I've been doing that really freaks people out. And this is why I'm making this video, to explain how this works. I can either use this, or I've been using this. These I pressure cooked last night, left them to cool down by themselves, pulled them out this morning. Some had this and some had this. Now, one thing that I had been doing, and it's not the best way to do, is even though I had filters, I left this cracked open, and after I took them out, I closed it. Which some people are like, that's wrong. It's gonna sterilize through the filters. If you have filters, why leave that open? And that is true. I've never had trouble with it. My reasoning was, the more space I leave for the pressure and hot steam to come in, the better it's gonna sterilize, instead of from one tiny hole or two. That's probably wrong, I admit it, but I've been doing it for a long time that way and never ran into trouble. Now, which brings us also to this. Here's the difference. If you have your grain in the pressure cooker with these and you tighten them, when everything equalizes and the pressure goes down and all that stuff, if any air comes back in, it's going to go through the filter, not through the side where it's open. Good. Now, then how the hell am I getting away with using only aluminum foil with no lids and no filters? And we're going to get into that. What I do is, and I've been doing and it's been working great, I even have a test side by side where I did 4 jars in the pressure cooker, 3 with the aluminum foil and 1 with this type of lid, and then I dumped them all in Ziplocs, and everybody's happy and doing great. No difference. So how can I get away with this? 1, I never vent manually. I always leave it to cool down by itself, and then afterwards I take them out real quick, add this rubber band, which is one of those scrunchies or whatever they call them for women to put on their hair. So as soon as I take it out, it's been in, we're going to talk a bit more about this, it's been inside the pressure cooker. Everything in there is still sterile. So I take it right out, put the rubber bands on. It's sealed now. You could argue that this is not the tightest seal in the world, but I'm not that paranoid, because I'm going to dump this in a Ziploc anyway, because of reasons I've gotten over and over before. It's faster. I like it. It's easier to break and shake, all these things. But mainly it's faster. So why in the world am I doing this, and how can I get away with it? So first of all, if you have access to good lids and filters and all this neat stuff, use them. Don't go the crazy route that I go. Don't follow me. But I'm going to tell you why it works for me and some of the reasons I do it. Another reason I do it is that if I have 4 of these lids, for some stupid reason, they fit in here perfectly in the pressure cooker, but they're so tight that sometimes it doesn't want to build up the pressure and make the seal go down and pressure and all that neat stuff. It keeps venting sometimes. I have to finagle them so much. So because the lids, if you notice, the lids add quite a bit of girth to the actual jar. So it adds to the sides. So these don't add anything to the sides. So in my 6-quart pressure cooker, I would end up having to use 3 with these lids and at least 1 with this, or just 3 by themselves. If you want to do 4, then you may run into that. The other reason I like it is that it's just so simple. I don't have to deal with these filters. I don't have to buy them. I don't have to be checking them to see if they look bad already and I should replace them. This is just so simple. And I'm going to go straight to a Ziploc anyway, so I figure if I'm already going to open them and dump them in a Ziploc, what's the difference? Again, you don't have to use Ziplocs. If you use grain jars like these, tighten them before you put them in the pressure cooker. Everything's self-contained. Now, if you use liquid culture, everything's going to stay sealed from that moment on forever until you open them when they're ready. But if you're not using liquid culture and you're using agar, which I like better, you are going to crack them open, put it in, and close them. Yes, it's going to be a lot faster than if I'm dumping in a Ziploc. But you've seen me do it. I do it so fast. I do this, put the Ziploc over, boom, boom, so fast. And I'm used to it. So again, another one of my crazy preferences. And you do you. Don't follow me on this if you don't want to. That's fine. Now, how am I getting away with this? Because this is the pressure cooker. We're looking at the inside. We got the metal trivet or whatever you're using, and the water. Let's say the water's here. I'm going to draw only one jar. Let's say this is a jar. Now, this is the foil. We're looking at a cross section. We cut it through the side. This is the lid. I'm just going to draw a simplified lid. My lid in the Instant Pot has these two vents. This one here, when it comes up to pressure, it seals with this silicone gasket. And this one, now, let's say this is the weight that has that thing around. It's a tube. The weight is on top. So this weight, draw it over here, has an O-ring here, and it has another silicone type of gasket here. Now on the top, imagine that this is not in scale at all. So imagine that this goes into the pressure cooker. This is the lid. Now, here you have 3 holes. Those are the 3 holes. You can see all the way through. You can see another gasket here, and you may be able to see down in there the other silicone little gasket at the top. Just so you can see. This doesn't have O-rings actually, so I drew that wrong. So this O-ring is not there. These are just indents in the metal. So the actual O-ring is over here. So this is the bobber or whatever you want to call it. We're going to go back to this because next to it, I should draw this correctly. This goes through like that. Now this one is this, which goes out to the other side. All right. So when it goes to pressure, it pushes up, of course, because the pressure is pushing everything out. And this wonderful seal is not letting anything in or out. And again, this is the locking mechanism. So you don't open it when it's under pressure and kill yourself. Great. Now, imagine this is like this. That seal, it actually goes out like that. This has a hole, of course. Air can come in and out here, and air would come in and out of the top of this tube as well. This completely seals But here's the thing. When the pressure goes down, let's draw it over here. Let's draw it here. This is a sliced view. So when it goes down, and I'm talking about the one on the right, this one is the one we're talking about. So how does the pressure go through the hole if it's stopped all the way? Because look, we got a hole going through all the way. So now, when the pressure has equalized, you do have some air coming in through here and escaping these two tiny, tiny holes that could get into the pressure cooker afterwards. All right, so when this is up to pressure, all the pressure in here is pushing out, because it's under pressure, right? Which is what makes this one move up and seal, like we were talking about over here. So the pressure seals this. As long as this is under pressure, even if I have only aluminum foil, which is not sealing anything, so let's say this is grain. Now for liquid culture, I would never do this, because liquid culture, I want one of these to always keep it sterile. Now, when it's under pressure, everything in here gets sterilized under pressure, heat, steam, all that crap. It's pressurizing everything. Everything is self-contained. Nothing is coming in there. Everything is sterile, and if anything, steam is coming out. Nothing is really coming in because everything is under pressure. Now, when it cools down, everything starts to change, because then when this valve opens, some air is going to come in. Here's the thing. If you manually vent it, you hit this little switch and open it. See how it comes up? If you manually vent it, it escapes, the pressure escapes really fast, really loud. My cats start running. They freak out. They think a monster cat is coming in there because it's so loud. Don't do that. Let it lose its pressure by itself. If it does it gradually, by the time this pops down, no air is going to be forced in there hard. Everything equalizes very, very slowly. Now, another thing that happens if you manually pressure is that, let me draw this over here. Imagine that this is the jar with the grain. This is all grain. And this is I'm drawing it very loosely, either the cracked lid or the aluminum foil that I've been using, is that if you do it forcefully, air is going to suck in here real fast. Now, you may get air from the outside, which is not sterile, coming in here and then coming in your jar. If it does it slowly, if it were to suck any air in, the air it's going to suck is contained in here. So it's going to be, I bet, 99.9999% sterile. Because from coming in through these two very tiny holes from up here, from that valve, is going to be so little. And then it has to travel all the way here and get in there. Yes, there's a chance that it can happen, but it hasn't happened to me. I've been doing this with aluminum foil only, and almost no contamination. But again, you don't have to do this. I'm just telling you how and why I do it. So when everything equalizes by itself, I take this out. You could leave it till the next day, but you're leaving these two tiny little holes because this one will stop it, and it will seal. Maybe it's not a hermetic seal, but nothing's going to come in, because you got a tube like this, and that thing goes down and covers it with a little silicone gasket. So nothing's coming in through here. This one is the only one that stays open, and it's tiny, tiny, tiny. So you could do it at night, take them out the next morning, or better yet, wait for the seal to drop, let it cool down some more, maybe half an hour more at least, and then crack it open, take it out, and immediately put on the rubber band. All right, so I'm gonna demonstrate real quick. You've probably seen me do this already. So here's what I do. I take this, hold it like that. These are really strong, which is why I use these and not regular rubber bands. This is gonna come out of the pressure cooker. It's gonna be hot, so you may want to wear gloves or something. And I just stretch it, put it over, and get it on that lip here between the threads, the bottom one. And then I hold it here, and I just pull my hand out. See, I'm holding it here. Boom. This takes me seconds. And then I push around to make sure it's really sealing in there. Now, again, this is not for liquid culture or anything critical like that. I do this because this is going to go from here straight into my still air box, and I'm going to dump it in a Ziploc pretty soon. I am not colonizing in here. Of course, not with aluminum foil. That would be even crazier than what I'm doing now. But it goes into a Ziploc, and we cover it with micropore tape and all that stuff, and it colonizes in the Ziploc. So this is why I'm doing this. It's been working great. I do it when I don't want to deal with lids, or when I'm doing, if I'm gonna do 4 jars, it doesn't fit very well. What can I tell you? You do you, I do me. It doesn't matter. If you have, again, I can't stress this enough. If you have good lids with good filters, use them. Now, another thing you need to understand is I have people in Asia, I have people in Europe, in my Patreon. A lot of them cannot just go on Amazon and order stuff. And you know that finding these types of things is a lot harder if you don't have Amazon, or eBay or whatever. So some of these guys need the simplest, down and dirty way to grow mushrooms, which is why I do simple stuff and sometimes crazy stuff like this. I am not telling you, again, this freaking claimer, I'm not telling anybody that if you have this lid, don't use it. Use them, you got them. But what if your filters look really skanky and you didn't have time to order, whatever, you're in a pinch? If you're doing Ziploc tech, you can do this. Or a lot of this applies to people that don't have access to real canning jars. Say you don't have access to the cool jars with the cool lids and all that stuff. Some people live out in the boonies and they can only get reused jars. They just reuse the jars that they buy for other stuff, like this crazy plastic cheese that my son eats. Or pizza jars. Some jars from pizza sauce are actually good quality. They look like this, and they have the measurements and everything. They're made to be reused. Most of them are not. So let's say you have this. You can drill holes and use just micropore tape that's easily accessible for most people. You could do that. Micropore tape is not hydrophobic, which is the problem. But for grain, it's perfectly fine. You can do 2 layers if you want. But if you're using liquid culture, micropore tape will get wet. I've tried it as an experiment and hated it. But again, if you can't do anything else, use micropore tape with a normal jar. But I just wanted to explain the difference on how this works. So this is why I do this. This is why the crazy uncle is showing you these crazy things. Again, we're not all living in privilege. Some people have to go down and dirty. Or, like I always say, I'm always on the razor's edge between simplicity and effectiveness. Believe it or not, for me, this is so simple yet effective, which is why I like the Ziplocs and all that crap. Again, if you have them, use them. If you don't want to use Ziplocs, use your jars. That's fine. You can just wait a little bit longer for them to colonize. All that shit. Do you, I do me. Just don't yell at me. I know, I understand. So this is why I'm explaining it and why I do this. And as always, constructive comments are always welcome. I like to learn and talk and debate some techniques and texts and all that stuff. It's great. But if you're gonna leave me a nasty comment, you're a dick, you're an idiot, blah, 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 you don't want to talk. I'm just gonna delete it. Which I, again, think I've gotten 2 in all this time. So, and I don't even care. I just delete, let's go. But again, I've learned a lot from people's comments in Patreon and on my YouTube channel. I've adapted some stuff. I've explained some stuff, why I do things. I love that, back and forth. The other day, somebody left me a message, and he sounded kind of rough, but then he said, I answered, and then he said, oh my God, you answered my message. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. So great. Constructive messages, comments are awesome. This is how we all learn, and we polish our text and we come up with new stuff, which we've come up with a lot of new stuff in Patreon. Okay, I'm going on. This has been way too long. But I wanted to clear this up, and there. Thank you. Hope this helps.